Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we do have yellow rain warnings issued at the moment in the southeast, as we are seeing a quite strong cold front move through, which has got some line convection with a lot of squally rain and wind coming for the rest of the evening and overnight. There could be 20 to 30 millimetres of rainfall in some of these regions. So yeah, could see some flooding when you wake up in the morning. We'll then have a look at the latest from the UK view, look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as things are going to continue to be fairly unsettled throughout the rest of this working week. And temperatures probably average to below average, as we have got some chillier air masses coming in off the North Atlantic. As we get into next week, we do start to see a lot of uncertainty. Now, the last couple of days, the models were very much on board with seeing a much warmer and much drier pattern developing. However, in the past sort of 3 or 4 runs, so the last 24 hours or so, a lot of the models have reverted on that idea, frustratingly, and are showing at least more of a westerly influence in the north, maybe the south as well. There still are some runs like GM today, producing some higher pressure and some warmer air masses in the south, temperatures into the low to maybe mid-20s, but much lower proportion of the ensemble members and the other runs than we were seeing yesterday or the day before. So it's looked like we're seeing a bit of a wobble, a bit of a back off from some of these runs, meaning perhaps we could end September on a cooler and more unsettled note, even though yesterday and the day before it looks like pretty much bang on we're going to see something warmer and drier, just showing you the uncertainty we do have this time of year when we have got all that energy coming from those extratropical systems to power up the jet stream, which could overpower any other sort of weather influencer. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see the centre of the low. It's the north of Scotland. You kind of see these spiral areas of rainfall. Still some heavy rain in these areas, but it's more patchy and showery. Further southwards, we've got some showers coming in behind the cold front. Much fresher air mass here. Again, showers shouldn't be as heavy or as widespread, but still could be some heavy pulses in a few spots. And then you can see the main cold front. Ahead of the school feature, which is on the back edge of the cold front, we've seen a lot of heavy rain as this has very slowly moved eastwards. We've just seen all this rain from the southwest just pile northwards. Because what we've got here is we've got the rainfall is moving northeastwards. It's moving on a very sort of northeastwards track. But the weather front is moving in an eastwards trajectory, which has essentially meant the rainfall's all be coming from the south. You can see all this rain across Guernsey, Jersey towards northern France. It's heading our way, but the weather front is only slowly edging its positioning further eastwards, meaning the rainfall amounts are really totting up in the east and the southeast. Now, ahead of the school line, the rainfall has actually reduced in intensity a little bit. If we do run it back a few hours, you can see ahead of the cold front, the rainfall was actually quite a bit more intense. But you can see over the last couple of hours, a lot of that energy has been reinvigorated into the school feature, which is starting to take shape now and is looking into quite a severe area of rainfall. You can see it's this line of yellow, orange and red going all the way from up towards Skegness, all the way down towards Bournemouth. This line is maybe 5 to 10 miles in width, but within it will be 20 to 30 minutes, maybe even longer, because it is moving quite slowly, of very intense squally rain, very strong winds, and there is the risk of some tornadoes and maybe even some isolated lightning within this as well. It is the direct boundary between the cold air and the warm air. So as we'll see in a minute, you'll be able to see there is actually quite a stark temperature contrast here. And we do regularly see these sort of cold fronts, but not always as active as this is, and sort of sweeping through as cleanly as this does. So heavy rain to continue for the rest of the evening. Weather warnings, as we'll see in a minute, issued into the early hours. And you can see, as I said, putting the temperatures, it's still relatively mild in the southeast compared to areas further north as westwards, and you can see that dividing line. You start to see blues appearing near Oxford, Northampton, but to the east of sort of Bedford, we're not seeing any blues at all, and that is where we're seeing the cold front positioned at the moment. And you can see as we zoom out, you can see a little bit stronger there, sweeping eastwards and bringing much fresher Atlantic air. I also just want to have a look at the past 24-hour precipitation. As we'll be able to see, there's a lot of rainfall has fallen in some areas. Of course, we have had weather warnings in the north and west over the past couple of days, and you can see that here for much of Wales up to northwest England, parts of Scotland. Rainfall warnings issued, and we have seen a lot of rain. Now, the focus of the rain is the east and southeast. You can already see near Southampton, Bournemouth, where the school line is now forming and moving eastwards. We'll start to see that rainfall really tot up, and I wouldn't be surprised to see many areas in the east and southeast by tomorrow morning to be dark green, if not getting up towards the yellow colours, which is indicating 30 or 40 millimetres of rainfall. So real high amounts. Remember, this is only what has fallen in the past 24 hours. Previous 24 hours, especially these areas further north and westwards, have seen a lot more rainfall as well. Now, if you look at the weather warnings, we have got a wind warning that's just expired, in fact, so I'll just update that. And you can see the rain warning issued until 3 a.m. tomorrow. It was only issued earlier this morning, so unfortunately I couldn't include it in yesterday's video, but it's from 4 p.m. today until 3 a.m. Again, could have some issues even into rush hour tomorrow morning. As you can see here, spell of rain, heavy at times, will affect the area later on Wednesday afternoon into the early hours of Thursday. 15 to 20 millimetres could fall within an hour, and that's because of the squall line that is moving through, and 30 to 40 millimetres in 2 to 3 hours, and it could lead to some travel disruption, especially during the busy evening travel period. High likelihood, but lower end of the impact matrix. So, yeah, we'll have to see exactly how much rainfall falls tomorrow, but it could be quite a wild night. And if you are trying to get a good night's sleep tonight, especially if you are sort of to the west of London, that school line is going to be coming through pretty imminently. But if you are to the east of London, up towards East Anglia, the southeast of England, towards Kent, might be the early hours of the morning before that school line moves through. As I said, could wake you up with, as I said, very strong winds and heavy rainfall. If you look at the UKV now, you can see that weather front moving through earlier this morning, pretty disorganised initially, but eventually has developed into a more organised area of low pressure this evening, or weather front this evening. You can see that school feature in the southeast being very severe, as it does eventually sweep through the early hours of the morning. By rush hour, most of that rainfall should have cleared, maybe a bit of cloud lingering, but there still could be quite a bit of surface water in places, so do take care. And into tomorrow, into a much fresher northwesterly air mass. Now, because it's coming from the North Atlantic, got quite a bit of moisture, so there will be showers around, but they shouldn't be too heavy, as I said, it is a fresher air mass. As we head through Thursday into Friday, we continue with that showery trend. Perhaps a few more heavier showers for northern and western areas here through Friday, but equally some areas are fairly decent with drier, sunnier weather at times. As we head into the weekend, we could see the return of low pressure, but interestingly, if you watch the track of these lows, they are definitely in a more southwest to northeast alignment, and this is because that high pressure is trying to build in the southeast. Here, the majority of the rainfall is in the north and west. The southeast is just about avoiding that rain, and this is because that high pressure is trying to hang on. And you can see that on the mean sea level pressure here. As we head towards 120 hours, you see that high pressure just to our southeast corner, not quite getting in, with very strong low pressure to our west, very strong southwesterly winds, and you can see quite a warm air masses in the southeast, 15-degree isotherm moving in. So UKV still on board with that warmer, perhaps drier trend, but only for the far southeast corner. But given the power of the jet stream and these low pressure systems, it could push its way through. So UKV backing off from the idea of some warmer, maybe even hotter weather towards the end of September. Definitely bringing a bit more low pressure in. Now, if you do look at the 2 metre max temperatures, you'll be able to see it's not particularly great over the next few days. This afternoon, maxes of 17 or 18 degrees under all that cloud and rain. And into tomorrow, not much better. Probably feeling a little bit colder because we have got stronger winds from the northwest, and it is a fresher air mass in general, but could still nudge an 18 degrees, but most areas in the mid-teens or either side of that. Into Friday, 16 or 17 in the east, but further westwards, 13 or 14. And into the weekend, again, 16, 17 in the far south, but much cooler further northwards. And Sunday could nudge a 20, 21 as that warmer air mass moves in. And we'll just have to see what Monday has in store. The big thing you can notice is 13 to 15 degrees overnight. So it is a much warmer, more humid air mass. But we'll have to see what it does deliver in the day, as there is a real possibility that those lows tumble through and don't allow any of that high pressure and that warmer air to dominate. Now, if you look at the latest from the GFS, you can see the big low pressure moving in at the moment, and that is giving the cold front that's bringing us our very heavy rainfall. We just maintain those westerly winds all the way to the weekend, and then we see the high pressure try to nudge into the southeast corner, but it doesn't fully push in. You can see beyond that, low pressure continues to tumble off the Atlantic, and instead of that high pressure building in, it sort of lingers out to our east towards Scandinavia and to our south, with these areas seeing warmer and dry conditions, the UK in a fresher Atlantic pattern. So unfortunately, GFS definitely is backing off the risk of warmer, drier weather, and all the way to the extended range, we stay under pretty severe low pressure influence coming in off the Atlantic, and again picking up all these ex-tropical systems, and that's just going to continue to power the jet stream, keep us very unsettled. And look at the accumulated precipitation, huge amounts of rainfall falling over the next couple of weeks. So a proper wet and wild start or end to September and start of October, really pushing us into proper autumnal conditions. We could be going, I said about a week or two ago, we were in warm 30 plus degree weather for many areas, with dry conditions, bone dry conditions. We keep going back to wet, muddy, horrible conditions in the space of only a couple of weeks. It always does happen this time of year, but we could be seeing a real big contrast this year as autumn does descend. If you look at the GM, it has a little bit more hope for the high pressure next week. You can see low pressure moving in. You can see the high pressure is more of an influence in the southeast through Sunday into Monday. This does hold some strength into Monday and Tuesday, but eventually the lows try to win out. We see actually a bit of a cut-off low developing there. And again, warmer air mass associated with it could be a bit of a thundery pattern. So GM a little bit of an improvement, but still backing off from the bone dry, warm, sunny weather, producing that perhaps in isolation in places before turning much cooler and more horrible in other areas. If we look at the ECMWF, the westerly winds continue to push in over the coming days. High pressure tries to build in for Sunday and Monday. There's a little bit of success in the far south and southeast, but eventually low pressure just comes in off the Atlantic once again as we head towards that day 10 period, keeping it very unsettled and pretty horrible indeed, all the way into the extended range. So not looking good once again, keeping this trend of horrible westerly winds, lots of rainfall, and if we do, and you can see just continuation of really horrible conditions, not looking great at all. Hopefully, the high pressure can come back, but at this stage, the model is definitely reverting more towards a typical westerly flow. So you start by having a look at the GFS ensembles. You can see cool over the next sort of 5 days or so. Then we see a big uptick in those upper air temperatures to well above average, and then hovering around average or slightly above for the rest of the run. There is a briefly dry patch towards the end of this week into the weekend, but then the precipitation picks up next week, so it doesn't look particularly great there with lots of rainfall, unfortunately. Quite a big contrast to what we were seeing yesterday. And you can see the sea level pressure. Look at this. As we head into early next week, it's down to 1,005, 1,010 millibars. It was showing 1,025 from a lot of the runs yesterday. So definitely a big back off from higher pressure, unfortunately. The humidity temperatures aren't looking particularly great over the next few days. But next week, even though rain will return, we are looking at a real possibility of temperatures still above average, 20, 21 degrees. So it could still have a reasonably warm end to the month, but it probably will be accompanied by showers and rainfall. And finally, if we look at the ensembles for the ECWF, very similar, more above average temperatures, so definitely a warmer end to September than we've got at the moment, and perhaps a warmer start to October, but lots of precipitation, so it's not looking encouraging for any real drier weather. It looks like we really could be in a proper descent towards wet and wild autumnal conditions. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Make sure you stay safe for the rest of this evening and overnight into tomorrow morning. We've got that school feature moving through. Going to be very lively indeed. Wouldn't be surprised if some of you have woken up later tonight with the sound of that rain hitting the windows, or something, or just the sound of all the gusty winds outside the house. It is going to be pretty wild when that school line moves through, so do stay safe if you are out and about this evening or into the early hours of the morning. And again, of course, fingers crossed that we see that high pressure return, as the latest runs in the longer term are not looking good for those high pressure, warmer prospects that looked so good over the last few days. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.